Hi, I'm Kevin Harrington,
I'm Samba Bachili,
Nina Vaca, Chief Executive Officer of Pinnacle Group,
an original shark from the hit TV show Shark Tank,
CEO of ADS Group,
the largest Latina-owned workforce solutions in America.
I first identified myself as an entrepreneur when I was 15 years old.
My mother and father immigrated here with a suitcase and a dream. I had a front row seat to entrepreneurship. I am living proof of what is possible in this country.
Today, the marketplace is very tough.
The challenge for African market today is its access to capital.
The number one reason why we can't scale as entrepreneurs is access to capital.
What makes Glow so different and so powerful is the access to experts, gurus, mentors, coaches, financiers, venture people, money.
When I started my business, I immediately went to engage with different communities, different platforms. Glow makes that experience digital. A digital platform makes it so much faster and so much easier for you to meet like-minded people.
The financial platform that Glow have that make Glow unique.
Glow is about commerce, Glow is about community, and Glow is about having access to capital.
Glow is an asset to every entrepreneur in this country and globally.
It's about helping you take your business, your idea to the next step.
Hi there, and welcome to Business Acceleration 2.0. It's a show where leaders go to grow, and we're thrilled that you could be with us today. Our sponsor, the Global Leaders Organization, or GLOW as we like to call it, was thrilled to be a part of this program today with our guest, DJ Vanas. So we're excited. We're going to get to that in just a minute. When we first give you a little bit of background on GLOW for you that are watching for the very first time. GLOW is a membership organization that was made for the entrepreneur. It's based on 4 principles. The first principle is community, because as an entrepreneur, it's very lonely at the top, and you need a group of like-minded peers to network with and learn from. The second foundation is commerce. As an entrepreneur, you're looking to build and grow your business. And what better way to do that? Through people you know. So we've got a marketplace so you can promote, advertise, and market as many times as you want to your products and services to all the other members within the Global Leaders Organization. The third component is the one that's the most unique. That's our capital component. So if you're going to be looking to raise capital in the next 6 months, whether it be debt or equity, we're here to assist you. We'll help you find that right capital for the right time. And then fourth, the final component is content, which is why you're here today. We bring you the best leadership content that's out there, and we do it every week with some of the top thought leaders from around the world. Individuals that have made it, some that have crashed, some that have burned and gotten back up again, some that are experts on marketing, social media, celebrity CEOs. We bring it all here to you every Thursday. Plus, you can also see these speakers live at some of the chapter events around the country. So if you're interested in joining a chapter within GLOW, reach out to us at withglow.com and shoot us an email, and we'll help connect you with the right chapter chair. And if there's not a chapter in your city, maybe you might be interested in running a chapter. Okay, so the fourth C, content. This is the reason why you're here today. Our guest today, Mr. DJ Vanas, is a really interesting individual. He's a Native American. He just had a book come out literally on Tuesday. So it's been a fast week for him. We're thrilled to have him here with us. He's going to talk to us today about the principles of a warrior and the warrior spirit. His book is called The Warrior Within. It's your own power to serve, fight, protect, and heal. So without further ado, let's bring on DJ. DJ, thrilled to have you here with us today. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So, we're going to get into your book and the principles that you've established in your book. But before we do that, can you give the background to individuals so they can understand how you came to write this book?
Yeah. Well, I've been doing this for a while now, 25 years and counting. I'm a former military officer, and I'm also a tribally enrolled member of the Ottawa Nation. And so my whole career, I've been building a model to show people and organizations how to use our traditional warrior principles in action to get better results in what we do in leadership, life, and in business. And I primarily work with those who are in service to others. I mean, that's the heart of the warrior role traditionally. It's not that Hollywood, stereotypical image of the sweaty, chiseled figure, walking down the street and shooting bazookas and bullets and bad guys and, occasional surly looks at the camera. It's a role and doing it all in the name of glory. In our tradition, we call a warrior Ogichi-da. And that term has nothing to do with what we see on TV and movies. It is a role where we take our creator-given talent and ability, develop that over a lifetime so that we could be an asset or a benefit to the tribe that we served. It wasn't about glory. It was about service.
Interesting. I was surprised to find out how many different tribes there were, right? And I know you took your principles from many of those different tribes, right? And kind of distilled it all down into the book.
Yeah, I've been privileged to work with over 500 tribal nations in the last 25 years, from the Arctic Circle of Alaska down to Florida and from Maine out to Hawaii. And I thoroughly enjoy what I get to do for a living. And in every one of those communities, I've gotten puzzle pieces to assemble the picture that I share with other people. And so, yeah, there's over 575 federally recognized tribes. So there's diversity within diversities, and within that group, there are 200 different languages. So you have different cultures, different customs, a lot of commonalities throughout the tribal, all our tribal communities, but everyone is distinct and unique and beautiful in its own way.
It's so fascinating to me. Okay, so let's talk about the warrior spirit. Now, the people that are watching right now, they're all entrepreneurs, business owners. How does someone that's in a leadership role learn that warrior spirit? Where do they start?
Yeah, that warrior spirit has taken a really deep and transparent assessment of our own core capabilities, reminding ourselves who we are, where our talents and abilities are, the times in our life where we have proven to be able to deliver the goods. We tend to forget that, but that warrior spirit, it goes deeper than motivation. It's more powerful than attitude. It's that no quit spirit that screams at the top of its lungs, I will find a way forward. Somehow, some way, I will make this work. Because we know that at the end of the day, when we're leveraging our warrior spirit, it's not about us. It's not self-serving. That's a fighter. Mm-hmm. We need to be a fighter before we become a warrior. But a fighter uses their talent, ability, and energy to produce a goal that primarily benefits them. But being a warrior means that we're using that same time, talent, ability, and effort to impact somebody else. And so that helps sustain us when we're in that warrior role. We know that it's not about us. We're fighting to contribute to other people in our lives and in our tribe.
And in a leadership role, I mean, that's naturally what you're doing. You're there to really help serve, or at least I guess the successful leaders, right, are really there to serve, whether it be their employee base, their customers. They're really there to serve them, right?
That's it. And that warrior role is all about leadership by example, not perfect example. That's a false burden leaders put on their shoulders, and it does more damage than good, I think, at the end of the day. We can be excellent at what we do, but it's not about perfection. We're flawed as human beings. I was taught traditionally we were made that way to keep us humble. And sometimes the best lessons we can show others in leadership is how to stumble gracefully. It's easy to lead when things are going right, but it's really, our leadership really gets revealed when things go sideways or get pear-shaped.
Right. Okay. So let's say things are kind of going wrong, that wrong direction, and you're in there serving and you're not the fighter, but you're the warrior, right? How do you continue without getting burned out? That you talk about the amber going out, right? How do you keep that bonfire going?
I am so glad you asked this question. This is where leaders really get themselves into trouble. The warrior role is kind of, we tend to over romanticize that. And we do that with leadership too, where we think that once this person gets into this position, all of a sudden they don't need any outside help. They don't need encouragement. They don't need to take care of themselves. They say yes to everything, no to nothing. And all of a sudden they paint themselves into this corner that is extremely high pressure, high anxiety. And I say in the book, very adamantly, you cannot be a warrior if you're falling apart. It just doesn't work. I'm a pragmatic guy. I use what works. And that model does not work. It's not sustainable. We can't have impact with other people. When we're falling apart, we're not even of service to ourselves. So self-care is a critical component in that warrior role. We want to be strong, not just this week and this month. We want to be strong for the long haul for our people. We want to have an impact over a career, over a lifetime. That's the goal. And we can't do that if we're not taking good care of ourselves. And I unpack that in the book very clearly, because I've been on both sides of that fence. I've run around with my hair on fire and I was a full-time officer in the military. I'd started a business and we had just started a family. And man, everything was jacked to a high level. And I ended up getting the shingles. And I talk about that in the book as well. So I'm a born again advocate for good self-care because I want to be in this to make an impact for a lifetime. And I suspect people listening to this want that same thing.
Okay, so when you unpacked it, balance is one of the things that you unpack, obviously. So how do you maintain? You're starting your business, you're starting a new family, you're out there running and going. How do you maintain that balance? What are some thoughts behind that?
Yeah, that another great question. First of all, we have to learn to say the word that we hate saying, which is no.
Yeah, true.
We can't say yes to everything. I mean, that gets us into trouble and into overwhelm so quickly. When we say yes to everything, we're really saying yes to nothing. We're depleting ourselves, we're spreading ourselves too thin, and we feel it. I mean, it feels like too little peanut butter on too much toast. Because
that's a great one.
Yeah, and we're also doing the worst thing a warrior can do in battle. We're dividing and conquering ourselves. So that's the first thing, is learning what to say no to, so we can say a louder yes and a clearer yes to the things that really matter. Second thing is making self-care a priority. Schedule it like a business meeting. I mean, we're so good at, accomplishing our goals in these leadership positions as entrepreneurs. We need to do the same thing with the way that we take care of ourselves. I talk about that in the book as well. The term medicine, when I say that in general society, we think pill or vaccine. We're conditioned to look at it that way. But in our tribal communities, medicine is, number one, it's something that we don't go to only when we're sick and out of balance. Medicine is something we incorporate into our lives every day to keep us healthy and strong, mind, body, and spirit. My people, we call medicine mushkeke. And the literal definition is strength that you gather from the earth. And anything, everything can qualify. It could be getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, spending time with the right people, spending time alone, pursuing a hobby, watching funny movies, exercise. The key is to know what your medicine is and then actually incorporate it. And it's a two-step process, because especially as entrepreneurs, business leaders, good at the first one, how do you take care of yourself? Oh, this. Are you doing any of it? No. That's the problem. Knowing a thing and doing a thing are two different things. So we have to be in alignment, or we can't be that strongest version of ourselves that we can be.
Right. So making sure you're taking care of yourself. So and I don't know if this is a good segue for the medicine bag. Would that be a good segue in for your medicine bag?
Yeah, the medicine bag is what I explain in the book. A medicine bag traditionally is something that people wore or carried with them that was full of special items to them, sacred items that gave them strength, that gave them courage, confidence during a time where they needed it the most. And that medicine bag held our some precious things in there. And in the book, I explain that our medicine bags, we all have one, and it's filled with the stuff that makes us uniquely and powerfully us in any given moment on our life journey. It's things like our work ethic, our education, our experience, our attitude, and the list goes on and on. But what's really important is to recognize what's in there, because if we don't know what's in there, we can't use it, we can't develop it, and we can't use it to impact somebody else in a positive way. So that's why that's so important. We tend to forget that. We are really quick to condemn ourselves and beat ourselves up when we make a mistake, but we tend not to look at all the things that we have access to on a daily basis.
Right. Okay. You also talk about one of your principles, and I love how you break it down with all the different principles. And I think the first principle is living off the land. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I loved writing this chapter because this is one of the things that's so inspiring to me, working with all the different tribes that I have over the years, is every single one of those communities used what was in their own backyard to create success. They didn't wait for it. They didn't wish for something else. They literally dug in with what they had in their own backyard. The Pueblo people in New Mexico, live in a harsh environment, hot in the summer, cold in the winter. They literally used mud in their backyard to create adobe. and build these beautifully engineered multi-level apartment complexes built in the side of cliffs that are still standing today, some of them. My people, we use birch bark for everything. We used it for containers, for shelter, but the birch bark canoes that made us famous, especially in business, our nickname actually was kind of a miscommunication. I can go into that in a minute, but we used those resources really well. We also tapped the trees in our backyard, specifically maple, to create that wonderful concoction known as maple syrup. You're welcome, everybody. That's from us. But the point is, we have to use the resources that we have access to on a daily basis. We complain and we worry, we get anxious about what we don't have, but we are surrounded by an embarrassment of riches in resources on a daily basis. We have the world at our fingertips. We have our network, but we also have things like our own time, our own energy, which are some of the most precious resources we have. That tend to go neglected or overlooked. And that medicine bag filled with all our skills, our talents, abilities. I started my business with a Kinko's business card and a Sky pager. You start where you are. Yeah. And you grow from there.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, it's great. So, well, taking that concept today, living off the land. So people that are living in, a big city, we live in the middle of Dallas, Texas. We actually kind of do live off the land. We have a big greenhouse that we grow all of our fruits and vegetables. But for most people, are you talking about, living off the land on the people they surround themselves with?
Yes.
And what else?
All the resources that you have access to, the videos, the books, the conversations, the people, your mentors, your colleagues. I mean, keeping up with current events, business trends. Always be reading. I mean, there are resources everywhere. So we don't have a lack of that. And living off the land means that we are surviving and thriving based on what we have, access to right now in this moment, not only outside of us, but our internal resources as well. Like I said, something as simple as time to find how we use our precious time. By the way, it's non-renewable. That's why it's critical we use it the right way. The way that we use our time defines every aspect of our life and business. It defines the results we get, the level of performance, our level of relationship, our health, based on where we're putting that precious resource. So that's what the living off the land concept is, showing how tribes did it, where you could take something as simple as a stick and a rock and shape it into a useful tool that can defend your village or get you dinner for that night. It's having that mentality of using what you've got, being creative, innovative, and using your resources well.
Okay, so this is a common theme that you hear within entrepreneurs. They're always working alone, basically. They never ask for help. And you talk about how a warrior, I found this interesting, a warrior never went out on their own. They were never alone. And as entrepreneurs, we do that all the time. We never stop and say, raise your hand and tap someone for some help.
Yes. And that is, in my humble opinion, a mistake. And I'll explain why. Warriors never fought alone. Why? Because it's kind of dumb. We don't achieve nearly as much as we're capable of until we tribe up with other people. And, we surround ourselves with other warriors who are out there making an impact in the world. I was taught traditionally, we are a lot more like bees and ants than we are like eagles. We are social creatures by design. We need each other. We're better when we're with each other. Or let me caveat that, with the right people. Let's be clear.
Right.
When we're in that type of environment, we're able to bring out the best stuff that we have to offer the world. We can't do that if we're just out there lone wolfing it. And I know that's that romantic image of the leader, the entrepreneur, but also with the warrior. Like I said, we over romanticize. We think that warrior role is about being beyond pain, beyond fear. That warrior needs nothing and no one except the next worthy challenge, which is all garbage. That gets us into trouble quicker than anything. Our warriors did experience pain and they felt fear and they stumbled and made mistakes. But what made our warriors special was they were, even in the face of incredible odds, they never quit. That warrior spirit was burning bright all the time because they knew they were here not for themselves, but to impact their people. So we have to surround ourselves. We want to be brave and courageous in this world. Surround yourself with bravery and courage. And it's the same thing, creativity, innovation, Put those people in your camp on purpose by design, and you're really going to see how good you can become in this world.
Okay, you just touched on a little bit of fear, and I know you talk a little bit about fear as well. What happens when you're at that cliff and you are the leader within your company and you've got to keep pushing through it because you are the warrior? What do you do when you've got fear?
Face it head on. Face it head on, and this is also why surrounding yourself with the right people is important. We're gonna need people to lean on to hold us up during those moments where courage is being tested, and we're all going to get to that point if you haven't been through 1,000 of them already. But especially when it comes to fear, facing it head on allows us to deal with it. It allows us to navigate through it. I talk about that in the book quite a bit about how important that is. The Plains tribes had a tradition during warfare called counting coup. And what counting coup was all about was not striking an enemy down with a weapon during combat. It was going up to the enemy and touching them in live combat, either with your hand or with a stick. And the reason why that was such an honor is because what it required. It required courage to stand toe to toe, face to face with your opponent, your fear, and say, I'm not afraid of you. I'm so not afraid of you. I'm going to stand here eye to eye with you. And when we're able to do that, we diminish, number one, sometimes we are inflating this fearful moment way out of proportion. We all tend to do that. But when we're able to sit with it, we're able to process what's actually going on. We can ask ourselves things like, are these thoughts useful? How many times do we get into a challenging spot and we just start to ruminate? That's when we start to inflate that moment and we make it so big, so ominous that we almost go into paralysis. The second thing we can ask is, what story am I telling myself about what's going on right now? And let's be honest, sometimes we make up crazy stories that have not a whole lot to do with reality. It's like playing Mad Libs with your kids. If you've ever done that on road trips, you create something out of whole cloth that makes no sense. And then the third question you can ask is this story really real, or is this just fear showing up? And sometimes that's what it is. But when we're able to sit there and go through it that way, we're able to process it better and make better decisions because of it.
I find that when fear, in so many cases for myself, is really just the fact of not knowing, right? I haven't experienced it. I'm not sure. I don't know. And if I do face it head on, just like what you're talking about, you learn, right? That, wait a minute, it isn't as bad as what I thought it was going to be. Yeah.
You do. And we also, and one of the things I also explain in the book is we need to remember when we show a moment of courage or bravery, log that. Remember that. Don't just blow past it onto the next thing. We tend to do that. Log that, reflect on what it just took for you to get through that tough moment. Because when you do that, you kind of create a courage reservoir that you can draw from in another moment where you're going to deal with fear. And you can look back and say, hey, I've been here before. I went through something just as bad or worse, and I'm still here. What did it take for me to do that? When we remind ourselves of that, then we are operating from a place of confidence and not from a place of chaos.
Right. That's such great advice to write it down. And then to go back and relive that. It's just such positive affirmations, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. The trendy thing with the puffy jackets that are now all trendy now again. And I've seen some ridiculous ones last winter that the guy couldn't even put his arms down. When we remind ourselves of that stuff, that we create that puffy jacket, we kind of have an insulator for that next fearful moment that life's going to throw us.
I love it. Okay, so you did a vision quest, and I think it really helped to mold you to who you are. It made some changes in your life, or it made you look at some things maybe a little bit differently. Talk about a vision quest and how we could all do vision quests too. What's the process?
Yeah, I actually went through 4 vision quests, and they are all extremely hard. It's actually called Hamblecha Yapi, which is to cry for a vision. And you don't know why they call it that until you go out on your own. It's 4 days, 4 nights, no food, no water, no shelter. Never had a more clarifying experience in my life. I mean, it was ultimately, you're out in the wilderness by yourself in an area the size of a tabletop, and you have ultimate clarity. I mean, the dirt settles in your mud puddle quicker than anything else I've experienced. And
so wait, is this just is it a specific place that you go to and you take no food?
No food, no water, no shelter. Yeah.
So you're just living right there on Earth for 4 days with nothing.
It's you, your blanket, your prayer pipe, and that's it.
And what's
And
in
like I
there?
said, no fighting traffic, no other people talking in your ear, and you really get to a place of clarity very quickly. And the whole purpose of a vision quest is to pray for direction and guidance. And when you get into a place of solitude like that and quiet, and you're pulling out all these, other stimuli that, kind of keep us in constant full tilt motion, we're able to see things and hear things in a whole different way. And that's why it's so clarifying. Now, the good news is you don't have to go through a vision quest to get that benefit of clarity. You can take that, you can do that the first few minutes of every day. Is just take 10 minutes, get grounded, get centered, have quiet time, let the dirt settle in your mud puddle, and think about what's most important to get done that day, what kind of person you want to be in that day, and have the grace and strength to handle whatever may be thrown your way. And when you do that, you start with a place of clarity, and the results that you get in that day are tremendously different.
So it's sort of like meditation, right? A little bit.
Yeah, I mean, meditation can be part of it. It's part of my daily practice as well. But it's just letting, I burn sage or sweet grass, I smudge, and then I go into a quiet zone, and I just let, like I said, all that dirt in my mud puddle settle. And then I start my day with clarity. I start it with strength, and the results I get when I start the day that way are completely different than just jumping out into the chaos, which we tend to do.
I think we all do that. You've got your first meeting, you got to get ready and hit it hard.
You got a cup of coffee the size of a human head. You're already 10 minutes behind. You're yelling down the meeting up, down the hall. I'll be down there in a minute. That's the way we can start the day, but I don't recommend it. We get much better results when we actually start off, with focus and clarity.
So just get up 15 minutes earlier, right? And then spend that quiet time with yourself.
That's it. Or shut off the TV 15 minutes earlier the night before. That's even a better strategy.
To do it the night before?
No, to go to bed just a little bit earlier so you can get that 15 minutes earlier. Because whenever you get up earlier, people are like, no. It's like, then go to bed a little bit earlier. We got to defend this time,
So of all the principles, which is the one that you tend to go to most often?
Oh my gosh. It depends on the day. Depends on the moment. I mean, the dealing with fear part, I think, is something that repeats over and over again. Also, the consistency of action. That's one of the things I have as a chapter in the book. Warriors attack again and again. It's that relentless pursuit of what you're trying to achieve. And when we create momentum, everything that we're doing becomes a little bit easier. But that doesn't happen without action. And it's those little actions that we take every day consistently that ultimately have the biggest impact. I know we get eager, we get overambitious sometimes, and we want to do it all today, or we want to do it all this week. And I think one of the keys to accomplishing anything big in our life, career, business is making sure that we're pacing ourselves, that we're doing it sustainably. And that's what gives us the ability to keep attacking and attacking until we get to victory.
I love it. Okay, so I'm just curious. We talked earlier in the very beginning that there's great diversity, over 500 and some odd different tribes, right? Mm-hmm. And you've worked with so many of them. I'm curious how it has affected you working inside amongst all the different tribes.
I am constantly swimming in a river of wisdom. That's how it's affected me. The elders I've spoken with over the years, the tribal employees, tribal members that are doing amazing things with almost next to nothing in resources, constantly keeps me inspired. Today I'm headed up to Alaska to work with Alaska natives and on a housing initiative. Every time I go up to Alaska, this is another one that redefines rural. Scarce resources, distant, outside of big cities, but I'm constantly in that space where I'm thinking differently, operating differently, and I'm constantly blown away by how valuable those principles are in the world that we live in today. Traditional wisdom is all about seemingly simple ideas that can have a tremendous impact in the way that we live and lead. And I would argue that these principles that have been around through millennia are not only relevant today, but they're more needed than they ever have been.
Yeah, that was the comment that I was going to make, is that it's so simple. And as humans, we do everything that we can to complicate a situation, but it's such simple practice to me, which makes it easy for all of us to do, right?
That's it. It makes it accessible. I mean, the fundamentals are still the fundamental, the basics are still the basics, which is great news in a chaotic, fast-moving world. And that's what I love about traditional wisdom. It's these comprehensive ideas that have been proven in the worst of times to still be beneficial and super impactful for anybody who chooses to use them. So that's why I lean on these during times in my life that I've struggled, where business has gotten chaotic. We've all taken it in the teeth the last couple of years. Lean on these principles really hard. They're evergreen, they have impact, and they're powerful.
Okay, this question is going to come out of left field for you because it's not really about the book, but I'm just so curious. In the times that we live today, there's so much emphasis put on making sure that we're politically correct, right? And that we're referencing and saying what we need to say correctly, which I'm so for. Is any of what we're learning today from the book, is any of it inappropriate for us to be taking on as a non-Native American?
No, I would argue not. I think at the end of the day, we're talking about political correctness. We're just kind of operating in a good way. Just look at it as being respectful.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as, using these principles, whether you're Native or not is irrelevant. I learned from elders, in my life and through ceremony that had an attitude that said, if we have good ideas in our communities, they're not just for us. This planet is our home. We have a lot of neighbors, and these ideas are powerful, and they're not meant just for our own benefit. And I was taught that not only is it okay to share these ideas with those outside of our communities, there's an obligation there. If there's ideas on how to create more resilience, more respect, more of a sustainable, balanced, community as a global village, we're obligated to share those things out. And people are migrating back to, what's old is new again, because we're finding that sometimes, going faster doesn't make it better. And a lot of times more doesn't make it better. And so we're coming back to these old principles. And that's why I always get excited to share the beautiful, powerful elements from my culture that benefit people outside of it. So it is accessible for everybody.
All right, one last question, and you might get this question all the time. Of all the elders, which I think elders are so beautiful too, and I don't think in the United States we pay enough care and respect to our elders, but in the Native American tribes you do, which I think is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Is there one elder that stood out that made such an impression on you? And if so, who were they and what did they do to make that impression?
Oh, you're killing me with this question. I've got so many awesome elders that I've had throughout my life journey and been grateful for every one of them. They have, coached me, guided me, sometimes kicked me in the rear end or pulled me by the ears to get me to this moment in time. And I love every one of them for it. But the one elder that stands out in my mind was my grandma, Bear Vanas. She taught our traditional language back home in Michigan. And my earliest impression being a little kid, she passed when I was 11, but I always remember walking, the time that I spent with her. It just, even recalling the memory right now, I always felt like I was in this bubble of warmth and strength and just loved. But she also made me feel very proud of my culture, my heritage, where we came from as a people, and inspired me to, forge ahead and create the life that I'm living now. She was, she would tell me, the more you know, the further you'll go. And I didn't know what that meant until I got older and I started to see the power of education, of learning, networking, learning new skill sets. And again, so you can impact other people. That was the whole goal, but very inspired. And she was a Renaissance woman, by the way. My grandma, she did everything. She was a woodworker, a hunter, a carver, a musician, a linguist. She was a superstar. So I got big shoes to fill with her.
Oh, wow. Well, DJ, it's been wonderful spending this time with you today. I want everyone to go out and get your book. It's called The Warrior Within: Own Your Power to Serve, Fight, Protect, and Heal. So it's inspired by his Native American culture and heritage, particularly the traditions of the Native warriors. So please go out and get the book. DJ, what an honor to have you here today. Thank you so much.
Chi Miigwech, thank you very much for having me today.
All right. And for all those that are tuning in right now, make sure you tune in next week, next Thursday, same time, same channel. All right. Until then, God bless and stay healthy.